Good evening and welcome to Late Night with Lenette. I'm Lenette Peterson, your host. My guest this evening is our very own Representative Jack Balcom of Merrimack. First, I'm putting a plug in for our town elections. We have our town elections on April 14th. That is a Tuesday. Polls will be open from 7 to 7 at the James Mastrocola Upper Elementary School. Yes, I'm running for town council. I'm going for the one-year seat. There's a one-term, one-year seat available, and there's three-year seats available. And a good friend of mine, Mike Malzone, is running for the 3-year. I ask that you'd consider the two of us when you're voting. Mike for the 3-year seat, Mike Malzone, Lenette Peterson for the 1-year seat. And now it's time for our Maggie moment. I tell you, our governor has a great sense of humor. Not only does she love spending money, but the things this woman comes up with just blows my mind. She thinks we should hire a chief operating officer. Governor, that's your job. Hello. She's the one that's supposed to be getting things in order in the state, not hiring someone. That's what we pay her to do. If she'd spend more time in New Hampshire doing her job instead of being in Washington, D.C. campaigning for the Senate seat she's running for in 2016, we wouldn't be in this problem, would we, Governor? You're not supposed to be using your current office as a stepping stone for the next office. I don't know, she's got issues. She's also trying to bring back gambling. Come on, Governor. Balancing the budget with gambling is not going to work. We're not going to bring in $80 million, and your own party should have convinced you of that last term. But gambling was killed last term mostly by Dems. So, we're back to the budget. And my good friend, Representative Jack Balcom. Now, last week we talked about what a cut is in the budget. You still get more than you wanted, that you got the year before, just not what you want. This time, we're talking about how agencies can restructure their spending to make cuts or non-increases less painful. If they would go after 6-figure salaries, cushy pensions, and cushy benefits, get rid of the fluff, instead of cutting services, hello, it wouldn't hurt the constituents. It wouldn't hurt the taxpayers. But no, they look after themselves, and a lot of times they want to make it as painful as they can just so the voters vote the Republicans out of office the next term, because it's usually the Republicans that balance the budget. So, Jack, what is your take on our budget?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to let your audience know I don't usually stay up this late. I mean, this is very late. And when I do, I normally watch Conan, but I'm going to start watching Lenette. Late Night with Lenette.
Well, thank you, and welcome to the show.
Absolutely. First, let me go ahead and preface that I'm no fan of the governor's either. And I'm very unimpressed with the way she governs. She's a very mediocre governor, and I would shudder to think that she would be a senator representing this great state. Given that, we're going to be spending 2 days this week. This is the week of March 30th. And we're going to be spending Wednesday and possibly most of Thursday on the budget. That would be the 31st and the 1st.
The first and the second.
First and the second. And that depends on how many amendments come up. As you know, we are having some growing pains with the budget. There was a...
this is the budget,
That's the
correct?
size of the budget as of last Friday. As you know, we just had a vote on the 8-cent increase in the gasoline tax. That went nowhere. The reason being is because that affects all of your pockets. It affects the tourist industry. It affects the commerce, the truckers. And we thought that was very inappropriate, although the gasoline tax has not kept up with inflation over the years. It seemed to be a quick fix for some people, and they also pointed out that 40% what's paid into the gasoline tax is paid by out-of-staters, which is another way besides the room and meals tax to actually tax out-of-staters. Given that, though, they've gone back to the drawing board and they've started to paste together some other ways to save the Department of Transportation from laying off 700 people. Part of that was $14 million cut from the increase, not from the budget that they had last time, but for the increase in the university systems. Now, for those of you who are crying foul, they came out this week, as Lenette was saying, with the salaries of the top people in the university system. I was very disappointed that in the top 10, there were two coaches that were in that rather than academicians. The football coach, I believe, was getting a salary of $265,000.
Now, wasn't it a part-time position?
The coach is the coach. He coaches whenever he has to.
Right.
Primarily in the football season. There is some out of season.
Yeah. Season. Now, they do have some off-season work.
Yeah.
But $200,000 worth?
$265.
Yes.
Yeah, that 65 is important. That's a lot more than we make.
Oh, hello.
The chancellor was making, I believe, $345. That was the top salary.
Right. My first term, they tried doing away with the chancellor's office. I mean, really, why do they need a chancellor's office in the first place? The number of employees, in the chancellor's office just blew my mind. I couldn't believe how many people work for the chancellor. I don't have the figures now. That was my first term, so that was 5 years ago. But it's...
Yeah. Besides commanding a high salary, there are a lot of perks.
Yes.
His own entourage. The chancellor's position, I look at it this way. Somebody has to be in charge.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's in charge. And given that, okay, he should have the highest salary. But when you start to say, $14 million, we can't afford those cuts. We already have the highest tuition, and the kids leave with the highest debt of most university systems. I say to you, I said, we had our chance. I said, we had a chance to elect Walt Havenstein, who is the CEO, and dealt with a $30 billion budget at BAE. He could have gone into the state budget of $10 billion or $11 billion, depending on whose budget. And he could have found the waste and fraud that the university system needed. He could have also found the money for the cuts that we're making to the developmentally disabled citizens. And I say that because I'm on the House's representative to the developmentally disabled. And we have that meeting Wednesday night, and I assume that they're going to be attacking the Republicans for not funding that fully, not funding the wait list fully. And I say to them, I said, you had your chance. You had a person who was going to go into that budget and eliminate the waste and fraud from those that are collecting welfare and shouldn't be doing, doubling up on that. People that have been deceased and they're still paying out funds. All those millions of dollars could have been retargeted for where they belong. But our governor, who is not a CEO, as she admits, in fact, I remember going to one of the debates personally because I was Walt's driver, where she said, we don't need a CEO, and now she wants one. She's a failed lawyer from Massachusetts, and that's my opinion of her. And as I've been up there and seeing her again, I was in the House before when she was a state senator, and I wasn't impressed with her then. I'm even less impressed with her, and I believe that the reason she was elected was probably because the citizens really didn't do their homework and hold her accountable for her lack of leadership in her first term. Her first term was not really a successful term.
Not at all, especially with the budget. She came right out and was going to balance the budget with, at the time, an illegal activity in New Hampshire. Gambling is not legal in New Hampshire, and to get $80 million to balance her budget from an illegal activity.
And a non-existent casino.
Exactly. You know, what is this woman thinking? I tell you.
Now, what are the voters thinking?
Exactly. They had a good candidate for a governor.
They had an excellent candidate, a chance in a lifetime. They really did.
And both times, last term, her first term in, who was she going against, governor that term? Was it?
Oh, that was Ovid
LaMontagne.
LaMontagne, and
another excellent choice for governor.
Another excellent choice. He knows the state.
Exactly.
He would have been a great leader.
He knows the budget. He would not have tried passing an illegal activity.
Never.
To balance the budget.
He's much too honest.
Exactly. And then this last term, Walt would have been a phenomenal.
He would have really. He would have straightened out our budget like we really need.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned that you were in the House before.
Yes.
When were you in the House the first time?
Well, this is my third term over 14 years. I was in the House between 2000 and 2004.
Yep.
And, of course, we had a Republican majority the whole time. I've never had to suffer with a Democrat majority. And I say that quite honestly because I think that would be too frustrating for me, and I admire people like yourself who were able to survive that kind of thing.
And no, I was lucky. I had a split. My first term, we had the super majority.
Yeah.
And then my second term, we were definitely in the minority, and it was painful, definitely painful.
No, now why is it so? I want to let your audience know, because I don't know if it's been clarified as clearly as this, but when the Democrats are putting together a budget, they feel that it's perfectly okay to go and borrow the money to balance the budget. Now, this is something that you would never do at home. Okay, we would like to have a boat. Let's go out and borrow the money and we can have a boat. We can live well beyond our means, and the fact that we have to pay all this interest has no impact on our thought process.
But you get a boat.
But we get a boat.
Exactly.
Now,
who cares how you pay for it?
What was amazing is during this budget process, when I saw what they had done to go out and borrow money and the service on that debt, those are millions and millions in dollars. For example, there was one that was on potholes for the roads. $14 million in service debt. Okay, here we made a big deal about giving 4.7, House Bill 563, back to the charter schools, and that's 4.7. And these guys are borrowing, and our interest is $14.7 million that could be put towards programs. Now, why? Why do they consider that balancing the budget? It's fraud. It's counterfeit.
Because they have no clue what it means to balance a budget. Her first term, she ran on the fact, and she went everywhere saying how she balanced the budget and how the state had a balanced budget. Her and Speaker-Norelli, the two of them took credit for the Bill O'Brien balanced budget. This term...
Totally deceitful.
Exactly. They had nothing to do with it. They scoffed. She wasn't even in office when that budget was passed, the governor anyway. Scoffed. No, they did not like the budget. Then all of a sudden it's working. Ooh, let's take credit. She's running for re-election. Well, now she's going for the Senate, and now all of a sudden, ooh, it's a radical budget, and this budget they're passing now is worse than the radical Bill O'Brien budget. She's a whack job.
Yeah.
Governor, can you spell whack job?
It's very frustrating. I tell you, this was a real introduction going back up there after 10 years.
I'm sure. New Hampshire has changed a lot in 10. When you were in office, we were a nice red state.
We were.
Bright red. We're purple slowly, and if Republicans don't wake up, we are slowly creeping to a blue state. That is so wrong and painful.
And what it means by being a red state